Today, I'm going to share with you a simple 4-step framework that you can use to find more stories to sell more of what you have in your business. For those of you that might be new here, I'm Devin Rodriguez, founder of Storypreneur, a company that teaches coaches and business owners all over the world how to leverage the power of storytelling to sell more of what they have and scale with ease. Now, before we get to these 4 steps, I want to describe and share with you a story of how I even discovered these 4 steps. So there was a day in the middle of the summer where I was doing something in my yard. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I was going into my house, out of my house, out of my house, into my house. I don't know why. But one time I went into my house from being outside and I heard a thump. It was thump, thump, thump. And I was like, what the heck is that? So I didn't pay much attention to it because I figured it was the floor creaking, the attic. You know how the house is sometimes. So I went outside about an hour. I came back in and I heard it again. Thump, thump. And I was going crazy. So I started to check in the attic. I checked the floors. I checked under the couch. I checked the refrigerator. I couldn't figure out what the heck it was. So I said, whatever. So I went back outside. About an hour later, I came back in. I heard it again. Thump, thump, thump. I was losing my mind. You ever just been going some crazy over something because you couldn't figure it out? And I was about to turn around and head out of my door again to go back outside. But out of the corner of my eye, I saw a bird that was on a window shelf, the shelf of the window. And it jumped off the window. And when it jumped and then boom, thump, it slammed right back down against the window where it initially jumped from. And I said, that's the damn thump that I've been hearing. But at that moment, I stopped and I said, holy crap. That's how most people live their life. See, the thing was that the bird was trying to jump and fly to a different location than it was currently at. It wanted to leave the windowsill and fly to somewhere higher. But for some reason, the bird had something wrong with it, a broken wing, something that was stopping it from flying. And at that moment, I said, wow, that's how a lot of people live life. A lot of the times we have these big goals, we set these massive things that we want to do in our life, and we go to jump and fly, but we don't first take the time to realize that there's something holding us back from flying. So then we end up in the same spot where we began. And I said, whoa, the bird, a regular, ordinary experience just enabled me to develop a powerful story. And I actually went on to use that story in some of my webinars to sell a lot of what I was selling. And I said, oh my goodness, this is a powerful, powerful, powerful tool that I just developed. So I want to share with you, break down how I developed that story without even understanding how I did it until I sat down later in that day and I developed this framework, which I call my story mapping framework. And you can use this framework to literally develop a new story for you and your business every single day. Okay, so there's 4 steps to this process. Step number 1 is to answer this question. What was one impactful experience that I had today? Now, why is this such a beautiful question? Because it forces you to live with what I call the most important word in our language, forces you to live with awareness. So many of us spend every single day so busy that we never, ever, ever stop to pay attention to what life is teaching us. So the first step in the process of story mapping is to gain awareness and to understand that life is more than just working. It's more than just going through our day-to-day activities. Life is teaching us lessons every single day if we're conscious enough and aware enough to catch those lessons. So the first one is, well, what was one impactful experience that I had today? And what that does is it focuses your mind on a daily basis to look for those impactful experiences. So to the ordinary person, a bird hitting a window, that's like, what the hell is going on? But for someone that understands the story mapping process, you stop and you say, what am I learning from this? So that's the first step, to develop awareness and to ask yourself the question, what was one impactful experience that I had today? Number 2, the second question is, how did that experience impact me? So now in the first step, where it's just what was one impactful experience, you're just talking about like how I told you the story about the bird. That's it. You're just telling the story of what it was. Step number 2 is, okay, what was the impact that it had on me? Well, I shared the impact it had on me with you, didn't I? It made me realize that that's how a lot of people live life. Boom, 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 boom. So what was the impact on you? Now, number 3, This is, okay, I got the impact, but what's the lesson that I learned? What's the tangible takeaway? For me, it was, okay, if I want to go to the next level in my life, then I have to first stop and analyze what is stopping me from flying right now. What are my weaknesses? Where are the points? What's my mindset? What are the beliefs that are holding me back? What limitations have I put on myself that I have to take off before I can go to the next level? That's the lesson I learned. But step number 4 is the most important step of all, because once again, this is what I need you all to understand. As one of my mentors once said, he said, Devin, never let what you want to say get in the way of what the audience needs to hear. Whenever you're sharing a story, I can't, or you can't, and I can't, both of us can't, afford to just share about I. We cannot do that. We have to turn it from I to you or you all. So it's great to share with the audience that I learned some lessons, but the audience is wondering, what the heck is the lesson for me? Because at the end of the day, the audience only cares about 3 things. Number 1, who are you? Number 2, what do you have for me? Number 3, why should I care? So now we transition, whereas number 2 and number 3 was all about, okay, this is how it impacted me. This is the lesson that I learned. Now, number 4 is we're answering that question, why should I care? Well, here's why you should care. Now, let me use my example of the bird hitting the window. So I'll start with number 3. The lesson that I learned was before I could go to the next level, I had to see what was holding me back. Now, what this means for you is, so you hear my terminology. So what this means for you is, or the lesson for you is, or what I want you to take away from this is, there's different phrases that you can transition from me to you. So what I want you to take away from this is, before you go off and set your next goal, I need you to first pause and ask yourself the question, what are the beliefs that are holding me back right now? What are the things that I have to give up in my life in order for me to fly? So I just took a story of a bird hitting a window and I turned it into a powerful story to share with an audience. And all it took was awareness. So what I want you to do is for the next 7 days, just see if you can develop 1 new story per day utilizing the story mapping framework. Number 1, what was an impactful experience I had today? Number 2, what was the impact that it had on me? Number 3, what's the lesson that I took away from this? And number 4, what is the lesson for the audience? I promise you, if you follow this simple 4-step framework, you can literally transform your life. Because number 1, you'll be living with a heightened sense of awareness and you'll be enjoying life so much more. Number 2, you'll be able to sell a lot more of what you have. Because that story of the bird is easy to turn into a persuasive story that will move people towards taking some type of action. In a similar way, the stories that you develop on a daily basis, of course, not all of them are going to be able to persuade people to buy your products and services, but persuasion is not just about selling what you have. It's about getting people to take action. So you can literally develop a new story every single day that can get people to take some type of action and lead them towards a certain direction. And that's powerful. So take this 4-step story mapping framework for the next 7 days and just see if you can develop 1 new story per day. If you do this, I guarantee that your life will never be the same.